Hello, my name's Rob Otton. I'm the head of drama in Cheshire. I've been head of drama for 8 years. I'm also an SLE for drama in Cheshire, as well as the UK drama Cheshire champion. And today I'm going to share with you my top tips for planning lessons. The first one is from the Magenta Principles by Mike Hughes. I was lucky enough to do some training with him a couple of years ago, and this technique I still use today, which is the idea of Christmas dinner planning. So the idea, whenever you're making a Christmas dinner, you start with the time that you're going to eat and work your way backwards. Okay? And lesson planning should work the same in his view. So you should know exactly where you want to go with that lesson, what it is you want to be achieved by the end, and everything that you plan works backwards from there. And that can work both for an individual lesson plan, but also for a scheme of learning. It's a principle that I've used and just a sort of mantra that I think about whenever I'm planning a lesson, and it seems to really work because it keeps things really clear and structured for me. And it took time to develop, at times, as any of these things do with planning, but just starting really clear with a vision of what you want the students to achieve by the end and working your way back. And we've adapted that principle also into our schemes of learning, so that way that we know what each step is within our lesson planning, we know why we're doing it, and more importantly the students know why we're doing it and what we're building up towards, which in terms of currently of Ofsted is massively important. The second tip is the power of questioning. As teachers, questioning is our biggest tool that we could use. And what we've done in a lot of our lesson planning in recent years is the idea of starting lessons with big questions to do with the topic that we're looking at, to sort of ignite an enthusiasm and a deeper thought process in students' learning. And then obviously following up those questions with further discussion and probing and pushing students thinking further. And that's from year 7 lessons, with a little slide there that says about scripts have to be performed the way a writer intended them, and to agree or disagree, and then that would prompt further discussion, to bigger questions that I would maybe use with GCSE and A-level classes, like the example of a closed question of who kills Tybalt, but who is responsible for Tybalt's death from Romeo and Juliet. One question is factual, it's a comprehensive question to show understanding. The other is meant to open up much more debate, and I found that a really useful way of using questioning to really get students to think deeper about things, and it seems to really work. My third tip is about the idea of where in your lessons are you making the learning visible, particularly from a drama point of view. Where are the opportunities where in your lesson planning are you going to make sure that this is a visible moment for students to show what they know, show what they understand. And I've recently been reading this book, and just that idea of visible learning is really something that I've been thinking about. Okay, where in this year 10 lesson here, when am I really going to show what they know, and what can I then do with that to inform my plan of the next lesson? So I think it's just a really good thing to think about whenever you're planning lessons in the future, is where is the learning visible? Where am I allowing students to show what they've learned, whether that's from one lesson to the next, whether that's over time. Visible learning, whether that's through discussion, whether it's through questioning, linking back before, whether it's through performance, whether it's a written task. Where are those moments, and how am I going to make it really clear to the students that I've noticed that moment has been visible, that they've learned? Because sometimes we can assume that they're learning and assume that students know that they're learning, but actually we need to make that explicit to them and show how far they've come, even in a short space of time, to build confidence and build enthusiasm for what they're doing. Okay, so where is the learning visible within your lesson is a good question to ask yourself, and there are examples, if you're interested in that book, of different ways that you could do that. 4 is from the Lazy Teacher's Handbook, is how can we make students work harder than us as teachers? Okay, and looking at ways that we can take away maybe some of the teacher talk and allow students to talk more, and engage more and think more. And there's 5 top tips that this book uses, particularly to do with lesson outcomes. Okay, so the idea of using student-friendly language, not just presenting a series of tasks which can seem very formulaic and not very exciting for students, not giving the game away, telling our students everything they're going to do in a lesson, and not waiting till the end of a lesson to reflect. The final one is about mixing knowledge and behaviour, so within the giving of a task, including the behaviour that you would be expecting within that task, to set boundaries and set clear expectations. And the final thing I think is just about relationships. One of the things that I got told when I was training was if a student arrives at your lesson, you might be the only person who smiled at them that day. And I think for 14 years, that's the thing that I've always thought about. Be positive, be passionate, try and get the best that you can out of all the students that you teach, and be brave and take risks. It is, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest job in the world, and we have a massive responsibility for the students that we have. And you're at the beginning of that process, and it should be an exciting thing. You can learn about policy and you can learn about the way schools do things, but being passionate and showing students that passion and care and attention day to day really is the best part of the job. Good luck.